You're a busy professional. You don't have time for fluff. You need strategies that work, and you need them fast. Welcome to Busy Pro Fast Wellness with me, your host, Alan Welsh. We're here to give you science-backed hacks and actionable tips to boost your focus, minimize friction, and maximize your results. Less time, more impact. It's time to get well, stay strong, and thrive. Let's get to it.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Busy Pro Fast Wellness. Today we're diving into a conversation I've been genuinely intrigued about for some time. The carnivore diet has been stirring up debates, praise and plenty of skepticism along the way. And our guest, Casey Krauter, isn't just dabbling in it. He's been living it for 5 years. And as a flexitarian myself, I'm curious, I'm fascinated really, to hear how he makes this actually work and what lessons even vegetarians and vegans can take away from his approach. So, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll try and dig in and see what the vegetarians and vegans can pull from this.
Of course.
That's that might be a tough one, but I think we can, find some common ground a little bit.
I think hopefully we can. I've got most of my friends seem to be in that camp. But anyway, Casey, before we sort of proceed with the questions, the meat of the interview, excuse the pun, but would you like to give us just a brief rundown of where you are at the moment and what your life is like at the moment?
Yeah, so I live in sunny, beautiful Colorado in the United States. I live on the Front Range, so a little bit north of Denver area. And it's beautiful here, like 300 days of sunshine, unlike, maybe where you're located. And so, I have a wife and 2 young daughters, and we pretty much live outside as much as we can. As you can tell, I'm pretty tan, so I soak up the sun like it's my job,
Absolutely.
And so, we're living here. I'm currently training for a marathon, and just trying to, approach life as ancestrally as we can.
Yeah.
And really, the carnivore diet has played into that quite a bit. And so, we can kind of get into that and some of the other things other than just changing to a carnivore diet that I've incorporated in my life and what I would recommend other people to kind of consider.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you've just touched on a couple of things that I would like to explore a little bit later on about the marathon side, etc. And the fact that you live outside all the time, that's just brilliant. I know that's so important now for vitamin D. But for me at the moment, I guess one of the things that I would love to know about is what first drew you to try it, and what were the first changes that you noticed in your energy, your focus, and your health that convinced you to stick with this diet? Yeah.
So, like anybody else's story, it's a really long evolution of changes. And so, I grew up, and we call it the standard American diet, but it's kind of the standard global diet at this point. Ultra processed foods, sweet sugary cereals. I wish I grew up in the UK with like an English breakfast every morning. That would have been nice, but
that's a bit of a myth, actually.
But it's a myth.
Well, there are very few people. That's the sort of treat people don't. It's more cereal, sugar-based cereals these days, and toast and marmalade.
Yeah.
So
So I grew up in a very carb-heavy, sugar-driven, childhood, and so all through childhood, I had headaches and migraines and stomach issues, and I was on antibiotics for periods of time and just was getting sick quite frequently. And then that progressed through college, and then I met my wife, and she was a nurse, but she had kind of a functional medicine sort of disposition, and she loved to learn. And so she just was, and even now she's a podcast junkie. She just consumes podcasts. But, she introduced me to utilizing more of a healthy diet for things like weight loss. And I was up to close to 200 pounds, which is not that, not bad, but I'm 5'9", and to give you perspective, right now I'm 145. So
Okay.
My progression from college, and so I'm in my late 30s now. So maybe, 20 years now.
You look good, man. You look good.
Oh, thank you. And, I've lost weight over that time, but I would say, we started out doing something called a Whole30. I don't know if you've heard of this program where
No,
you do
I haven't really. No.
Yeah, no. You do a 30-day protocol of you essentially take out sugar and dairy, and you do just whole foods, really. So it's like it's also considered kind of a paleo diet. Okay. So you take out grains, you take out dairy, you take out sugar, and you take out seed oils.
Right.
And so it's really just vegetables, fruit, and meat. That's what I was eating. We did a Whole30, which is a 30-day period, and we felt great. And so we did that, but we were eating a lot of veggies and not really understanding the role of meat in that, or the role of protein.
Okay.
And so, we were still experiencing some gastrointestinal problems because we were eating huge salads, a lot of greens, a lot of vegetables, a lot of fiber. And so it was still a carb heavy diet for us. And so I was still feeling cravey. I was wanting to have more sugary, like fruit and stuff. I kept on craving that kind of stuff. So I'd go overboard still. And then we shifted into a ketogenic diet. So if you've ever heard of a keto diet or anything like that, that's kind of a buzz diet right now as well. And what that is a high fat, moderate protein, low carb diet. So it's similar to an Atkins type diet.
Right. Okay.
And so we were kind of tracking our macros, eating a low carb and high fat. So I was eating a lot more butter, adding a lot more olive oil to things, and keeping my carbs down below like 20 grams.
Right.
So that's like, to give you perspective, that's like one avocado a day for your carb intake.
Thanks. That's really useful. Thank you for that. When you say 20 grams, my sort of mind goes blank a little bit.
Yeah,
but that's
like
really
what does that look like? Yeah, it's like 10 almonds, half of a avocado, and maybe some cheese and leafy greens. Keeping it very low. That would be kind of, you'd add those into some of your meals.
Right.
That's what that would look like. And then you'd have a bit more protein and a higher fat. And so we did that for many years, and I started really losing weight, feeling really good. And what I noticed doing that diet, and with a ketogenic diet, it's also, they use it for therapeutic purposes as well, for things like Alzheimer's, dementia. They also use it for schizophrenia patients.
Wow.
Because really loading up the body with that high saturated fat, the good fat for you, really feeds your brain what it's craving. And so people with mental diseases or disorders, it really starts to reverse those types of diseases, and so they use that as a therapy a lot of times in functional medicine.
I didn't know that. Okay.
And so, ketogenic diet, I would recommend, as a first step for some folks, if you're like, hey, I want to really start exploring stuff, or like this kind of diet progression, I would say a ketogenic diet is a great first step to really explore. really the idea behind it is that you're going into ketosis. And so that is a state in your body where your body is breaking down the fat that you're consuming and the fat that's in your body to produce fuel. So instead of being carb fueled or glucose fueled, which most people are,
I understand.
It switches them over to a fat fueled state.
Okay.
And so if you think about, a car that runs on unleaded gas.
Yeah.
If you have a very dirty gas compared to a very clean, high octane gas, those two fuels, they do the same thing, but they're not as efficient. And so one is more efficient than the other. And, that's what ketones and fat fueled do for your body. And your brain can actually utilize the ketones very well, and it gets you almost to a state where you're super focused, you're hyper focused, you're not very hungry, your cravings for carbohydrates start going down, and you can just perform on such a high, like optimized level that you haven't before. And so that's what I was starting to experience with a ketogenic diet.
Okay. Sorry, can I ask a question there? Because how long did it take you to make that transformation from when you noticed that you had obviously some health issues, etc., and then you got to the point that you are on the ketogenic before you went on to full carnivore?
Well, so after the Whole30, we switched to a paleo diet, which is just fruits, veggies, meat. Yeah. Those three things. And then we would add in olive oil or butter or avocado oil for the fats. So we were doing that for a period of time, feeling bloated from kind of fiber in the stomach still.
But how long though?
Oh, probably 3 years.
Oh, okay. Quite a period of time. Yeah.
3 years of doing that. And then switching over to a ketogenic diet and really experiencing a lot more energy, less bloating, less feeling kind of sluggish because of the carb heavy nature of, even just fruits and veggies. They are carbohydrates with fiber. It gets into your colon and it kind of weighs you down. And a lot of people don't really realize that. But then, so I switched to keto, did that for 4 to 5 years, I would say. With just a very low carb diet. I still kept carbs in there. And that was kind of my Achilles heel, I would say, is this low level of carbohydrate consumption. And so, I started hearing about, through different podcasts and, just different influencers on social media and things, because we followed a lot of ketogenic social influencers, who are promoting the ketogenic diet, teaching it, explaining tips and tricks and how to do it. And then a few of them were like, hey, you can, if it's not really working for you, like completely, if you don't feel fully optimized, there is this other thing called the carnivore diet, where it's a complete elimination of carbohydrates out of your diet. Yeah. And so I got curious about that because, in my mind, I'm thinking, how can you live on just meat? I mean, that just makes sense, because we're taught that, you need to eat your veggies. You need to have all the, and I think this is a question that you posed to me. Yeah,
no, for sure. You're going to probably cover that now, which is something I really genuinely would like to know the answer to on that. And many people will know that, because we are taught to follow a balanced diet, which does have, we know what the food pyramid is. And it's obviously, that's the greater part, is the fruits, the legumes, the vegetables, etc. on the bottom of that pyramid. And you're suggesting, obviously, that wouldn't be that. It's almost like topping that pyramid upside down.
It is. Yeah. It's taking. I would say, even on a carnivore diet, it's even more extreme than that. But flipping it over to where you want the most calories out of your fat consumption, which is and really focusing on saturated fat, even, which has been kind of demonized
yes, it has, very much,
by the health industry, and the smallest amount of intake in your diet are the sugars and the processed oils and the grains, even grains as the bottom one, that's the biggest. Like, you need to eat the most grains, and I would not agree with that, and I think that there's a lot of literature and research done that says that grains are actually not good for you. And also
that literature is not in the mainstream, though, is it?
No, it's not. And I think so. Some people that I began following, and I'll drop some names here so your audience can maybe explore some of these. Dr. Sean Baker, he's a prolific carnivore diet proponent. Dr. Sean Baker, Dr. Anthony Chafee, he's a big one in the space as well, and Dr. Ken Berry. So I would say those three are, if people want to start exploring their content, it's fantastic, and it will lead people down a similar path to what I found and what I took.
I guess there's one sort of burning question I have. I think the people that would want to pursue that avenue would need to feel that they have something missing in their own health. Maybe they have issues or something, because if you're in great health, or you believe that you are psychologically and in terms of your physique or physically, then you probably won't have that need to go down that route, would you? I mean, I have a balanced diet. I'm a flexitarian by nature. I eat very little meat and a bit of fish here, I don't, and I feel pretty good. I think I do. Yeah. So maybe it wouldn't be for everybody, but it might be for people that have some sort of issues, or they want to, as you say, lose weight, or just feel more focused and feel better with themselves physically. So.
Well, I mean, I would say if you want to optimize your health and your body, I would say trying out a ketogenic or a carnivore diet for a period of time and see, how do you feel? Because here's kind of the sad reality is that most people, they kind of have an underlying malaise or underlying fatigue that they don't realize that they have until you go off a lot of these things and you're like, I didn't know I could feel this good.
Right.
And then there's also a lot of natural indicators that most people don't have the education or the knowledge on. And so that would be things like joint pain and trouble sleeping. If your skin burns, that's another indication. Okay. And that's a huge indication, because most people are like, well, you go out in the sun, you're going to get burned. You got to wear sunscreen. Let me tell you, I live in Colorado. I'm at 5,000 feet above sea level. And I go run just about every single morning, about 10 miles. And I wear no sunscreen, zero sunscreen. I wear no sunglasses. I wear no hat, nothing. I go shirtless. And the sun is beating on me, but I don't burn. I don't burn at all. And what some of the reasons why is that we as humans are naturally built to be outside in the sun.
Right.
And so when we do things like adding on sunscreen and covering us up and wearing sunglasses even, your eyes are built to take in sunlight and create certain hormones in your body that get directed out to your skin and protect your skin from sun damage based on the amount of light that's coming through your eyes. So it says, this is a bright and sunny day. We need to make sure your skin is prepped for that. And that's how, so this kind of ties into touching on like ancestral living that I mentioned before.
Yeah. Okay.
And so there are a lot of indicators as humans that I think have been kind of dismissed in our in the education of how life should operate with the natural world. And so we do things that sort of break that cycle with nature, sunscreen, sunglasses, the food that we eat. And so
I wonder why that is. I wonder what the real sort of is there some sort of nefarious motive particularly at play here, that if that were the case, that obviously we're being prescribed something completely different than that model of the ancestral living. And the reason I mention that is because of what happened. You know, I've always been somebody to go along and think, well, that's what's being prescribed. I'll believe those doctors. The majority will say that. That's what the mainstream narrative will say. So therefore, that probably is the truth. But I suppose I've been slightly tarnished, from the COVID years. I'm sorry to bring that up to it, because obviously, in my opinion, things were not straightforward. And during that time, with the masks, with the lockdowns, with the forced vaccinations, etc. And during that time, I thought, there is a kind of push to give us a one-size-fits-all, which I wasn't really aware of. So I love the idea of having an open mind. I think that's my bottom line here. It's really important that we all look at all sides of the argument before, what applies, because there is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all. That might be really fantastic. It works brilliantly for you. Might not work for other people, but it shouldn't be somebody say, "Oh, that's rubbish. Dismiss that." So we need to have that open-mindedness. And I feel quite passionate about that.
And to my discredit, I'm an evangelist about the carnivore diet, just because in my life and the people that I've seen do it, there has been such amazing, beneficial, and dramatic change for the better. And so I'm just like, I think, in my opinion, everybody should try it for a period of time. But what about if they genuinely don't like meat, or they can't stand the idea of meat? That could be problematic. It could be. Yeah. And that's where we kind of tie in, like, okay, what do you say to a vegan or a vegetarian about that? I would say, if you're a vegetarian, so my main thing would be this. Most people don't get enough protein in their diet. Okay. Most people, protein is it's a nutrient, but it's a macronutrient. You need a lot of it.
Yeah.
And most people are deficient in it. So if you were to actually test folks and say, okay, do you hit the threshold for what, for a thriving, healthy body from a protein standpoint, they don't hit that. And so I would say you need protein to thrive and survive. Okay. And so for folks that are vegetarian, I would say eat eggs. Eat as many eggs as you can, get your protein up. If that's something that you consume on your vegetarian diet, I think that's kind of the definition of, you don't eat meat, but you can eat some eggs, I think. I know vegan is no animal product, period. For me, that's a really hard diet stance to take, because I know for a fact that there are vitamin deficiencies that if you choose to be vegan, you will experience. And the only way that you can get those vitamins is by taking a supplement that's derived from an animal. So, I think the ethical argument is, it doesn't really stand up in a court of law. But that's somebody's personal choice. I have seen long-term veganism not really be beneficial for someone's long-term health.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't really think of anybody particularly who shows an amazing caliber of health who's a vegan. I'm just trying, and I do know vegans, but they tend to sort of just about get by. They're normally way underweight, very sort of skinny, and and not necessarily that strong. But I'm sure there'll be multitudes of vegans out there probably would be, no, that's not the case.
Yeah.
But
yeah. And you know what? This is my opinion. Yeah, it's my opinion, my perspective.
Yeah.
Sort of what I've seen. I don't think that you get the amount of nutrients. And so let's switch over to okay, let's talk about meat only. Do you get all the nutrients that you need from a meat only diet? And the answer is yes. Okay. So
that flies in the sort of face. That defies, if you, any of the great athletes, the endurance athletes, so they need to fuel up on the carbs, don't they? That's the idea. I mean, that's always been the case. Right. That has been pushed. And I mean, there is something, I had to read up a little bit about this, about the glycogen levels, etc. They need to be stocked up. So, well,
they're constantly hitting goos and gels, these glucose gels during their, marathon races. And let me tell you, last year I did my first marathon and I did it completely fasted and zero carbohydrate.
Completely fasted?
Completely fasted. My last meal was at 6 p.m. the night before, and I only drank water and water with electrolytes and salt. So like a pink Himalayan sea salt that has kind of minerals in it.
Okay.
And that's all I took for the whole race. And so I ran. I didn't bonk. I didn't hit a wall. I didn't hit a lack of energy at a certain point.
That's amazing, because you always hit the wall. I mean, I've done 5 marathons, London 5 times, and you always hit the wall at about 20. Well, about 3 of those I hit the wall and 20 miles. Yeah.
Yeah. So I never hit a wall. It was constant energy. Obviously, you wane down, but it's never this this glucose. You almost fall into a pit of lack of glucose. Your body has stopped being fueled, and you need to hit something. That was never the case. And I trained fasted and zero carb the whole time too. Mm. And so I was just prepared for it. I ran it under 4 hours, which was my goal for my first
Very good
marathon.
For a first marathon. Very good, yeah.
And so I'm training for my second one. It's at the end of September. I'm doing the same thing. And but yeah, back to does meat give you everything you need? And so the answer is yes. And let me explain that a little bit. Okay. So there's muscle meat and there's organ meat, and then there's things like eggs and roe, and then also saturated animal fat. Okay. And so if you're consuming all of those, and people would say, okay, this is considered like nose to tail consumption of an animal, you're eating all the parts that you can consume. And then there's also, if you make bone broth, that's also another source of minerals and nutrients,
right?
Calcium and different things like that. And so as somebody who's completely carnivore, I focus on meat and eggs are my main staples. And then I'll incorporate things like liver and heart for organ meat. And that gives you different micronutrients that help to kind of optimize and fuel your body.
Yeah.
And the idea is that you're consuming meat and a product from an animal that has eaten a vegetarian diet. And so instead of you eating the veggies, the animal ate them for you, and now you're eating the...
Okay, I never really thought about it like that. I mean, there's obviously the argument that you don't really know sometimes there's been some problems with hormones, etc. So you might not always know the source, and it has to be organic or grass-fed in order to supposedly guarantee that you're getting the best quality. But no, I never really thought about the fact that they have eaten the vegetables, etc.
So if you kind of listen to the research and the people who are sort of talking about the carnivore diet, the animals that are probably the best to consume from a nutrient standpoint are ruminant animals. So that would be cows, lamb, deer, elk, bison, things that have multiple stomachs. And what that does is they consume the grasses and the greens, and they are able to break it down through multiple enzymatic processes through multiple different stomachs, and turn that into their meat. I mean, they grow from that. Our stomachs are high in acid. They're not meant to break down fibrous materials. They're meant to consume meat and break down meat in a very bioavailable way.
Yeah.
Meaning you consume it, it goes right into your body. You have minimal waste. Yeah. And we can address the whole fiber, the idea of like, you need fiber, that's a myth in my opinion. And in the research, so it's not really my opinion, it's kind of science, but, so if you focus on ruminant animal consumption, so beef, that's a big part of my diet is just beef. What specifically cows and sheep can do, even if you feed them grains, they have a way of really filtering a lot of toxins and things out, just by the fact that they're constantly churning, and the enzymes in their stomach are able to really clean up what they're consuming and turn it into meat. And so I would say for ruminant animal meat consumption, you don't have to be as concerned about, is this grain fed? Is this grass fed? How clean is this?
Yeah.
It's going to be, it will just in general, it will be cleaner. I would say the ones that you really want to focus on getting pastured or, what would it be called?
Organic?
Organic. Yeah. That meat would be like pork or chicken.
Okay.
Because they're monogastric animals. They eat, goes into their stomach, it gets right into their system pretty quickly.
Right. Okay. Great distinctions. I didn't know anything about this, so that's useful to know. That really is. I love learning this stuff. Fantastic.
Yeah, and so it's you can get all the nutrients that you need.
Yeah. My mum's gonna love listening to you, because whenever I go and see her in Cornwall in England, she knows that I don't eat much meat, and she always feels a bit guilty. I said, "No, Mum, no, don't worry. I'm not a vegetarian, and then we eat meat every night." And I'm like, "I'm cool with that. That's fine, because it's it's once a year, and I see her." But she is somebody who's a great proponent of a meat diet, so she'll enjoy this.
Yeah. Well, I think so. If somebody wants to start out and try this, I would say, get excited about having eggs and bacon for breakfast, because that is the staple for me. I eat 6 eggs and 2 strips of bacon for breakfast.
What? Sorry, 6 eggs in one go?
Yeah, 6 eggs,
oh, gosh.
2 strips of bacon, and then my lunch is, so I'll eat that at like 6 a.m. And then I'll kind of go about my morning, and then I'll eat another big meal of about a pound of beef. Either that's like in a burger, or kind of a ground beef that has been browned. But
the burger wouldn't be in bread though, would it? Because that's carbs.
Nope, no bread, just the meat.
Just the meat. Yeah.
Salt, some salt, maybe. Yeah, just salted meat. Okay. And then and then I'll add 2 more eggs to that.
Wow.
So I'm up to 8 eggs now. And then later in the afternoon, kind of getting towards evening, I'll have 4 more eggs. Let me think. Yep, 4 more eggs, and maybe some liver or organ meat or some bone broth, and I'll eat some animal fat that we render down and we kind of freeze it into pucks.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I'll cut up like a chunk of like frozen. It's called tallow. It's beef fat is called tallow.
Okay.
I'll cut off a chunk of that and just pop it in my mouth and eat it, because to me it tastes really good, and it supplements my meal, and it has a lot of really good micronutrients too. So like stearic acid is really good. That's an animal fat, and so that's kind of that's my day.
That is so. I mean, did you, obviously you liked meat before, but what about offal, or the organ meats as you call them? Were you okay with that? I mean, I was a great fan of liver when I was a student, for example, because it was very cheap, and I would always go for the lamb's liver as opposed to the pig's liver. So I'd eat that in those days, and I can eat liver if it was placed in front of me. I wouldn't be too comfortable with heart or with brain, for example. But how were you in the past? Were you okay with that offal organ meat?
No. I mean, I wouldn't have ever touched. I mean, I wouldn't have touched any of this before I kind of started small, and then I grew into really enjoying the taste of it. And I think what was tied to that is the fact that when you start cleaning up your diet in this way, you sort of crave these micronutrients that you never really had or you never really tasted before. So, I started just eating meat and eggs, and I didn't really do any organ meat. And then my wife, she said, "Hey, try this, chicken liver." So she made up some chicken liver, and I tasted it, and it was just like, man, it tastes like something that I need. It tastes it's so good, kind of this irony, high iron type taste. And it's like every once in a while I'll get a real craving, and I think what that is there's something in your body that is needing that micronutrient. And so I love organ meat. I haven't tried a lot of the different stuff. I've only had liver and heart, and then like different bird organs, so like gizzard and there's another one.
I can't help you on that one, I'm afraid. Sorry.
I don't know. But I really genuinely like organ meat, though.
I mean, I guess after a while, it's like anything, your body will tell you what you need, because you'll have that craving for it. I suppose if you can wean yourself off, because you mentioned earlier on that you had a sort of typical American diet, and you mentioned also that you would have liked to have obviously been brought up maybe in Britain, which is not so heavy on that type of diet, thinking that we were more inclined probably to go for a full English breakfast, which isn't really the case. It's kind of, that's just promoted as a bit of tourism, really. I think there might be a few that would disagree with me on that, and it's always great to have a great full English breakfast from time to time, and many people would agree on that. But you mentioned the process. So, for example, if you'd had a healthier diet, though, for example, if you'd been brought up I live in Spain and France, and it's a very Mediterranean sort of diet. We're not going to be eating processed food. I don't eat any processed foods. We always cook from fresh, and we don't buy any packet stuff or anything like that. So maybe those issues that you have mentioned in your health, they might not have been a case, and you might not have made that transition because you would have been okay with yourself, but maybe not as healthy as you actually are now. Because you are kind of the paragon of health, aren't you now, I guess, really?
Yes, I would agree with what you're saying. I think, the traditional European diets of France, Italy, Spain, where they're eating, unprocessed, from the land, artisan foods that, the tradition of making that food has been passed down. They're using very clean ingredients. I think that those people, and in a lot of those areas are like, you have centurions or, centennial folks that are living up to 100 years or more.
We've got somebody just opposite from where I live, Madame Mondange. She's 103 and she's still walking around and still reading every day. Yeah.
And so I think that the end of life diseases are really tied to, especially here in America, tied to the increase of sugar and the increase of these toxic seed oils. Yeah. And then also the GMO and the glyphosate issue.
Absolutely, Casey. I couldn't agree with you more. I could not agree. And I'm so sort of, passionate about this because some of my family live in the States, so I see what's going on. I go over there from time to time. Yeah. And it's just dreadful of what they're eating and the way that they live, and the dependency on sugar, for example, is just massive. So I get where you're coming from on that.
And there's something that I say a lot is when you go into a carnivore diet, it literally takes you out of the whole industrial cycle that's making money off of you. Okay. And so hear me out. There's this cycle of what you consume from the food companies makes you sick. And so then you give your money to a doctor. Yeah. They prescribe medicine. So then you're giving your money to the pharmaceutical company. Yep. And the pharmaceuticals actually do more harm than good. And so you're back into the medical establishment.
Yeah, I know.
And you're giving them money. And then, but the proliferation is you're still consuming these toxic things that are keeping you in this cycle.
Absolutely.
And so you're losing your life, you're losing your health, you're losing your money. You're tied into this system that is completely corrupt because, underlyingly, and I don't think any single doctor would say this is what they promote or proliferate. But the idea is that if they can keep you sick, they don't want you to die, but if you can stay sick, you can be a money making machine for the rest of your life for them. And so
that state of affairs is absolutely disgusting. And I know what it's like. I know how the pharma works, and I know about the fact that it's best. The model is to keep you as sick as possible for as long as possible. And, and it's endemic within the system in the United States. I mean, I know from my folks who live out there, they're always going for medical appointments. It's like medical appointment here, they're constantly. And I say, well, why are you doing that? My mum doesn't. My mum's 80 years of age. She goes to the doctors once a year for her bloods, like most people would do in Europe, just to check. Yeah. Whereas it's like there, no, it's like every couple of weeks they're off getting this. Oh, it's prevention, Alan. It's prevention. What do you mean it's prevention? It's because the insurance companies, you've got the sickest nation in the world. And you pay the highest amount for medical care. How the heck does that work? Yeah. How do you possibly tally that up? You can't. Yeah.
It's extremely frustrating, and the sad part is the people who choose to live in a healthy way. Take my family for example. I still have to pay for that, even though I'm not utilizing it. And my tax dollars are going to companies like Novo Nordisk that are pumping out Ozempic, and I'm like, I will never take that. I eat meat, and I stay extremely fit, and I'd rather give my money to like subsidize regenerative farming, you know, like
absolutely.
give my money to the farmers so that they can make my meat for me.
Well, yeah. I mean, the farmers, the farmers are getting a hard time all over the world. I mean, that's going on in Britain now. They're trying to slowly close farms down, you know. But anyway, that we're going off on a tangent a little bit there. But I know exactly where you're coming from. Thankfully, in Europe, we don't have that. We don't have to. We just, our social security contributions, whatever they are, very small, will go into that. We get free healthcare, you know, and we can use it as and when we wish, without having to pay exorbitant amounts of money to keep that insurance. And then you have your, I don't know what it's called in the States, where you have a certain amount that you can use and things, which is just, can you reach that amount? There's a name for it. But anyway, so that, keep on what you're doing. It's obviously working for you very well, you know. It really is.
So I would say if somebody's curious about it, obviously anybody that is following you, they can reach out to me.
Oh no, and I'll put your all your details in the show notes for sure, of course. Yeah.
If they just want to message me on social media or send me an email, that's easy too. And you know, I love to help coach people on what this looks like, and a lot of times I help them kind of step through the evolution of it as well. It's not a, hey, let's go cold turkey, unless somebody is like, hey, I'm at the end of my rope. I need to do something dramatic. I'm the type of person that's extreme and dramatic. So I'm like, let's just, you know, cut it off and start clean. And that's worked for me because I can't moderate anything. And so, they can reach out to me, but I would say, hey, give yourself 30 days to try it and see what you feel, see what you think. Most people at the end of that 30-day period will say, I feel so good, I don't ever want to stop this. And there will be exceptions to that, won't there? Because some people might have some sort of health conditions or something, and maybe a carnivore diet isn't the ideal fit for them. Possibly. Sure. You know, I guess judge your own situation, right? But I would say the main thing that I would encourage people and the people that are listening is make sure you're getting animal protein and animal fat in your diet. You will get the nutrients that you need. And you know, I think you'll start feeling better. You'll see things like your sleep is getting improved. Your energy feels much better. You have more clarity. Your joints and things start operating a bit better. And then cut down or cut out sugar as much as you can. I mean, that is for sure. It's technically a drug. I agree. So, that's it. I mean, there is also the question of affordability, because I think you've maybe encapsulated with that to some extent with what you said. There is a way, because if people, I mean, you said that you don't have to go down the organic or the grass-fed for like beef, but probably you would do that with, if it was chicken. These are two examples that you've given, because I suppose to always have the organic or the grass-fed could be an expense, couldn't it? And a lot of people wouldn't be able to afford that. So is that something that you have any suggestions on, or any ways around that? I think so. So I mentioned, you know, if you have the resources and the means to afford organic grass-fed meat and do everything that way, I would say that's like the highest echelon of what you can do. Okay. But the reason why I mention ruminant animals, you don't have to be as particular on that, is that you can just go to the market and get beef and try and find the lowest cost that you can. That's what we do. Literally, and some people will be like, oh my gosh, you go to Walmart? Yeah, I go to Walmart, and I don't know if you have Walmarts in UK.
I know what Walmarts are, We don't have them, no. But yeah.
But I'll get a big 10-pound tube of beef, and it's so silly when you walk out the store with this big tube of beef. It's about this long, and but that, to keep costs low, that's what I do, and it's about $3 to $3.50 per pound of US dollars, and that keeps my beef consumption low. And then we'll get a big 5 dozen crate of eggs for our family, and we'll get multiples of those. And so I would say beef and eggs, at least for our family, we're trying to find the cheapest, most economical that we can find. And then for chicken and pork, we try and get the cleanest that we can find.
Yeah, okay. That's good, sensible advice. Yeah, I'm glad that was reiterated, just so that people have got some idea of which sort of journey to go down. Of course, and obviously you would help them.
To give you an idea, I eat about a dozen eggs and a pound of beef, and maybe a little bit more things throughout my day. And it's less than $10.
Yeah. Okay.
If you add it all together for what I consume in a day.
Yeah.
For what I can find,
Yeah, of course.
So.
Yeah. Great. And obviously there's one thing that we haven't really addressed. It's just, and I'm sure that people will be wondering about that. What about the vitamins or the antioxidants that you would get from fruit? Because, you need your vitamin C content. You can get your vitamin D outside. But what about that? How would you address the vitamin C? Because that's very important, obviously.
Yeah. I think you can get vitamin C in different micronutrients if you are incorporating organ meat and bone broth.
Yeah.
And saturated animal fats into your diet as well. I would direct people towards Dr. Anthony Chaffee. That's Chaffee.
Yeah, good.
And he talks a lot about plant micronutrients and antioxidants, in the fact that a lot of the forms of those nutrients, they're contained in a way that your body can't completely access. And so that's the idea behind the fact that, like, if you go for a ruminant animal, they have eaten those items, and their structure and their body is built to break those down to create the meat that you need. And so there's also other things about plants and fruit that they can contain kind of toxins that protect the plant from your own consumption. So Dr. Anthony Chaffee, he puts it this way. He says, plants are trying to kill you because they can't run away from you like animals can, but they can produce toxins that stop you from eating the rest of the plant, if you run into it. And so even things like spinach have different toxins called oxalates and lectins that can get into your cells and start wreaking havoc on a small scale, that most people don't really understand that side of the plant kind of toxicology of plants.
No.
Which is a whole study,
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's so enlightening to find out all that stuff about different plants, etc. And there is a question which I have regarding that. Supplements, that was it. I knew there was something. It just came into my head now as you were speaking. Supplementation, I suppose, if you are worried about not quite getting that, or you're not going to go down the organ meat route at this point where you would have those vitamins, maybe supplementation. Is that something that you would do? I mean, I take supplements just as a precaution, just to make sure. Do you also do that from time to time?
Yeah, so I do kind of basic, more electrolyte supplementation.
Okay.
So things like magnesium, sodium, What's the other ones?
Iron, maybe, I don't know. It's not really the same.
No, I get quite a bit of iron.
Oh yeah, of course you do. You're overflowing with iron.
Yeah. So things that are typically contained in kind of a mineral salt that you would buy from the store. Yeah. So I'll consume a glass of water with a teaspoon of mineral salt just mixed into that.
I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start doing that with that Himalayan salt you mentioned earlier on, because we've always got that, and I've never ever done that ever.
Yeah. Well, most doctors would say keep your sodium down, but it's when you start cutting out all the processed crap that we eat, which contains very high amounts of sodium.
Yeah.
And when you combine it with a carbohydrate, the function of a carbohydrate is to retain water inside of your cells. Right. And so, if you've ever eaten a carb-heavy meal, you've probably felt bloated and you've seen it in your face. Yeah, for sure. That's water retention. So your cells are sucking up water, and there's something going on where they're trying to essentially protect themselves from and process and detox from what you just ate. Right. Essentially.
Okay.
And so, supplementation, I do a lot of magnesium supplementation and then salt electrolyte balancing just because I'm very active. Yeah. And if I don't keep a good balance of that, I'll get kind of muscle cramps and things like that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I don't do anything else. I'm not on any other pharmaceuticals.
Yeah. Okay. That's really useful. And if someone is curious about the whole thing about going down the carnivore route, however light it might be, do you have, is there one sort of small step or experiment that could inspire them to make a tiny change?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think if you did something for like a day, you wouldn't see much of a progress. But I think, like I said before, if you take a 30-day period and maybe just try increasing your protein up to a point that is, I would say, therapeutic or beneficial to your body.
Yeah.
And what I like to say is the amount of grams of protein you should consume is up to what your body weight is in pounds. So if you guys are in kilos,
yeah.
But if you convert it into pounds, so for me, I'm 145. I fluctuate between 145 and up to 155. If I'm gaining muscle or not.
Sorry, what would that be in kilos for the European listeners? I'm 71, 72 kilos, more or less.
Let's see.
Are you doing a conversion now?
155 divided by 2.225. Is that right?
It looks like you might be a late
70.
70.
70
okay, yeah.
kilos?
Okay, yeah, right.
So yeah, I would say, take your kilos, convert it into pounds, just to get your number, just to get the number that you are looking at. Because for me, for the conversion into the amount of grams that you should eat. So if I say I want to hit about 160 grams of protein, per day. So that for me, that gives me the amount of building blocks that I need to maintain good muscle and gain muscle.
Yeah.
And have good energy and good repair and recovery. I would say increasing your protein content is vital. And then also, like I said, start cutting out sugar. Yeah. Sugar is probably the main thing, and seed oils.
Yeah.
Those two will wreak havoc.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. And I agree with you on that one. Absolutely. 100%. Great, Casey. I think we've covered so much, and you're obviously a mine of information on this topic that comes shining through the way you're speaking about it, because you seem to have all the all the knowledge there, and you've obviously experienced it and done all the research yourself. with doctors. It's always great if you've got, people up there that obviously do know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
That's, although not all doctors do, but these ones, obviously, you've done your research, etc.
Yeah.
So that's really great. And I've enjoyed speaking so much about this. Before we sign off, obviously, I will be dropping information about your Instagram handle in the show notes, and anything else that you would care to give to me by email or whatever, I will put into the show notes. But is there anything else that you'd like to mention before we sign off?
Oh man, there's so many things that I could mention.
Okay.
I have two small daughters now, and so we've raised our kids to eat this way too.
Yeah.
They're predominantly meat based, and so we feed them the meat that me and my wife feed them, or me and my wife eat. We all eat the same.
Yeah.
And then the only veggies and fruit are what we grow in our garden. So it might be a squash that we make over the course of a couple days and feed that to them, or it might be a few apples that are local that we picked from a local tree that we give to them. And so we have just seen our kids develop in a way that's leaps and bounds above their peers that are getting sugar, that are getting cereal puffs as babies, and all these things and formula that has a lot of soy and just seed oils in it. Those kinds of things are detrimental to the development of a young child as they're growing, especially with their gut. And so I would say if you feel like it's too late for you, it's not too late for your kids too. So try it for you, but also we want the next generation to thrive, and we don't want them to struggle with obesity and diabetes early,
which they do now,
which is happening. We're seeing, and in
the UK it's the same. It totally,
and even things like autism and people are seeing Alzheimer's in kids and Parkinson's in kids too, where it's just like there's something happening with the medical aspect and also the food aspect, and those two things, when they come together in a small developing child, it can have detrimental effects. And so
I hear you, brother. I'm going to use a bit of an Americanism there, but I'm with you on that. Totally.
But let me tell you from my personal experience with my kids, my daughter, she's 4. She learned how to ride a bike at 3. She's writing and spelling words and sentences and reading now. She's only 4, and it's just the sponge aspect is so strong when their mind is clear, when their body is ready to go, when they're fueled properly with things that are not toxic to them. And so I do this for my family. I do it for myself, so I feel good, but I also I'm thinking about the next generation.
The next generation is so important. And everything you said, Sony, excuse the pun again, but it's definitely food for thought, without a doubt. And I'm so pleased that we've managed to cover all this, and there is an absolute important reason to see the next generation so that we can change this as much as possible, that society changes, in the light of new knowledge, which unfortunately a lot of it will not get out, but if it can get out of the pores from some sources from time to time,
I mean, your podcast
for
little ways, the people, the world around you, that's what I'm trying to change. The people that I touch, the people I communicate with, the people that I can influence around me. I'm not trying to change the world, just just the people around me.
Yeah, great. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Casey. I'm going to sign off now and drop all those notes. It's been an absolutely inspiring conversation and so useful, and you shed so much light on the possibilities of changing the diet. So that's really great. Thank you. I shall bid you farewell.
Yep.
Okay. Goodbye for now. Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Yep.